Good morning. This is the time and place for zoning cases for the hearing of May 4th, 2016. My name is Bradley Collin, and I will be conducting the hearing as the hearing officer. We have 3 cases scheduled for today, and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the green speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submitted to our planning assistant. I would like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearing are recorded as part of the public record and can be accessed through the city's website at glendaleca.gov. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners and tenants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the applicant's request. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present a case, or their case. And they'll be given a 15-minute time limit if needed. Others in support or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to then come forward and speak their name and address again clearly within a 3-minute time limit. And then if the applicant wishes to make any closing comments, they will be given that opportunity at the end. The hearing will be closed and the case either taken under submission or a decision may be made today. We have 3 cases, as I mentioned today. We have an application for a variance, conditional use permit, and administrative exception to allow for the addition of 2 residential units, each with an attached 2-car garage on a commercially zoned lot with an existing 2-unit apartment building with 7 single-car garages located at 1465 East Chevy Chase Drive. This time, I'd like our case planner to make the presentation, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Collin. I'll do a brief overview of the project and then go through the 11 findings that are associated with the applications. As you said, the applicant is proposing to construct 2 residential units, each with an attached 2-car garage on a lot zone C3, commercial service use, commercial service zone, Height District 1. The property is a 10,400 square foot rectangular shaped lot that slopes up from the street with an approximate average slope of 24% and is developed with a 2-story apartment building built in 1951 with 2 dwelling units above a 7-car garage at the rear of the property. The site is accessed by an existing 10-foot wide driveway located along the west side of the property. And the site is surrounded by commercial, multi, and single-family, both zones and uses. The proposed 2 units are 2-story, approximately 25 feet in height, and will each have 2 bedrooms with approximately 1,400 to 1,500 square feet of living space. Both units have attached 2-car garages located behind the building and across from the existing 7-car garage, and will use the existing 10-foot wide driveway for access. The proposed building meets all setback requirements of the R1250 zoning district, as well as providing the common and private outdoor spaces required for the new units. This property, as I stated, is Zone C3, and multiple residential dwellings with dwelling units at the ground floor require approval of a conditional use permit. This project also includes a variance request to use the existing driveway, which has an 18.75% slope, where 15% is the maximum. And lastly, an administrative exception is requested to maintain an existing single-car garage door opening width of 8 feet 1 inch, or 8 feet 8 inches. A 6.7% deviation is required to meet the 1 guest parking space requirement. Comments received from other divisions generally related to conveying their standard conditions We did get a comment from the fire engineering section that stated that the existing driveway exceeds the maximum allowable slope for fire department access, but to mitigate this, fire has added a condition requiring that the existing and proposed buildings have automatic fire sprinklers. Staff believes that all 11 findings for these requests can be made, and I will go through them now, but I'll start with the conditional use permit. The project with ground floor residential uses is consistent with the land use and housing element in that it will increase housing type diversity to meet the needs of current and future residents in an area that is easily accessible to a range of nearby neighborhood and retail service businesses. The safety element did identify the site to be within a fault management zone, but only for critical facilities. This does not limit residential development. East Chevy Chase Drive is considered a community collector street in the circulation element and is generally characterized with low and medium density residential and health facilities and can adequately serve the proposed 2 units. The open space and conservation element does not identify this site for open space purposes, nor is a site valuable for conservation purposes. Therefore, the proposal is consistent with the objectives of the general plan. The project is located in a neighborhood where both commercial and residential uses are permitted and currently exist. The residential uses along East Chevy Chase Drive are predominantly developed with units on the ground floor. These ground floor units have not proven to be detrimental, and therefore it's not anticipated that the proposed units will be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. As I stated, the site is currently developed with a 2-story apartment building with 2 units above enclosed parking. The surrounding area is developed with a variety of commercial and residential uses. The interior blocks north and south of East Chevy Chase Drive are developed with single and multifamily housing. This residential project will not interrupt the nature of East Chevy Chase Drive because the commercial uses along this part tend to be located at the corner intersections with residential uses in between. Therefore, the project with ground floor residences should not impact development of nearby parcels. Adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation matters are provided for the proposed project. The neighborhood around the project site is fully developed and public utilities are in place. The proposed 2 attached garages provide the 4 required parking spaces, and one of the existing 7 parking spaces will be made available to satisfy the guest parking space requirement. In total, 11 parking spaces will be provided, which exceeds code requirements by 2 spaces. As for the variance findings for the driveway, strictly applying the driveway slope standards in this case would result in an unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general intent of the ordinance. The city's zoning code outlines the maximum driveway slope standards to assure clearance of a standard vehicle, adequate site access, visibility, and just generally comfortable navigation. In all zones other than single family, the maximum driveway slope is 15%. And just in comparison, in single family zones, the maximum driveway slope increases to 20%. This existing driveway that currently serves the 2-unit apartment has a slope of 18.75%. This driveway and slope condition has served the property since 1951 and has been adequate for accessing the site without difficulties. In order to propose a conforming driveway, the existing development would need to be demolished and the site conditions reconfigured, which would include additional grading. With the scale and design of this 2-unit project, it's anticipated that the existing driveway will continue to provide adequate access to the existing and new multifamily units and is not contrary to the intent of the ordinance. There are exceptional circumstances applicable to the property which warrants granting a variance for driveway slope. As I said earlier, in order to propose a conforming driveway, the existing development would need to be demolished and the site conditions reconfigured, including additional grading. The upslope nature of the property, combined with the existing 2-unit development located at the rear of the site, leaves only that front portion of the property available for development. As designed, the project makes use of this front portion while using the existing driveway, therefore minimizing grading, which is more desirable to accommodate the proposed 2 units. The granting of the variance to maintain an existing driveway slope 3.7% greater than the maximum allowed will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the C3 zone. The site is already developed with the driveway and 2 multifamily units. The proposed addition of 2 units will be in keeping with the existing character of the site as well as surrounding development. In addition, traffic and transportation staff did not cite any concerns related to this driveway, and therefore continued use of this driveway would not be materially detrimental. The objectives of the city's driveway slope standards include assuring clearance of a standard vehicle, providing access, visibility, general comfortable navigation of a car to and from the site. Adding 2 units while proposing to use the existing nonconforming driveway will not be contrary to the objective of these standards because it has been established that use of this existing driveway has adequately served the site for decades and will continue to serve the needs of the site as proposed. And finally, for the findings of the administrative exception, the proposal to add 2 units to the existing 2 units on site requires a guest parking space be provided. 7 parking spaces in enclosed garages are already located on the property, where only 4 parking spaces are required for the existing units. This project proposes to use one of the existing excess parking spaces to serve as guest parking while maintaining a garage door opening width of 8.1 instead of the required 8.8. Proposing to utilize this already existing parking space will result in a design improvement for the project because an additional guest parking space does not have to be added to the site. This will minimize the need for additional paving for a parking space, which would allow for landscaping, as well as providing the benefit of having a car screened from view in an already enclosed garage. Maintaining the existing reduced garage door width dimensions to access enclosed parking has served the existing development since 1951 and will continue to be functional. The proposal to use an existing space as a guest parking space will be beneficial to this property and surrounding properties because without having to modify the garage door opening, it allows the site to maintain the existing 7 parking spaces. With the project's 2 enclosed garages, which is 4 additional spaces, the site will have an extra 2 parking spaces. Therefore, granting this request will not be detrimental to the public welfare, injurious to property, or improvements in the zone. And finally, the intent of dimension standards for garage door width is to provide sufficient access for a car to enter and exit a garage. Allowing for a slightly smaller garage door opening keeps the proposed project from having to substantially alter the existing building. Requiring alterations to widen this opening would result in the loss of 1 additional space, which is unnecessary for an existing garage that has proven functional and adequate for ingress and egress for several decades. Having 2 additional parking spaces serves the site better than having a slightly wider garage door width. Therefore, approving a minor deviation would not be contrary to the objectives of the regulations. So as I said, staff feels that all the findings for the CUP, the variance, and the AE can be made positively and recommends that the project be approved with the draft conditions that are attached to the staff report. This concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Thank you. I do have one question. On the guest parking space, is the door required, or can the guest space be open?
The door is not required, but it's the opening.
Opening itself is
Right.
non-conforming.
Correct. Right, a guest parking space does not have to be enclosed. But since it already exists, I believe the applicant, unless they state otherwise, wants to continue to use it with a door.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
At this point, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. I have 2 speaker cards, one being the applicant. So Mr. Mardian, please come up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Hearing Officer Collins staff. My name is Vic Mardian, Mardian Associates, Inc., 416 North Glendale Avenue, Suite 212, Glendale, California, 91206. I'm the applicant representing the owner, Mr. Ronald Nectar. this project. I want to first thank also staff for their great explanation and description of the project. I think those are the items requested. I can go through the findings, but essentially my findings are included in the justification and the application, which are similar and in fashion. I may add, if I may add, at this time, Mr. Nectar has owned the property early 2000, and we were thinking of multiple ways to approach this property and developing it. As stated, it's a C3 zone. We are allowed to have much more density in this particular case. If we calculated it based on our 1250 standards, we're allowed to put 8 units on here. And based on what we have is half of the density that is permitted. We feel this project is a modest addition. As you could see from the photos, and I'm sure you visited the site, the property has been vacant, the front portion, for many, many years as the property existed. And I think this will add a better streetscape to the street and utilizing the front portion. And if I may add also, the context itself, you have residential across the street, all residential, and adjacent properties are also residential. There's few commercial on our side also. So there's a mixed, and I think this will blend in truly well with the surrounding environment. And as you could see from the plans, the project provides all code standard setbacks, sufficient landscaping. The building is actually set back from the front property line of average 23 on the first floor and 26 on the second floor, which is much more than what the adjacent buildings on the neighboring properties are. They're literally to the front street line, to the commercial edge, and we feel that this project, if this particular case is denied, there's no way to do anything with this property without demolishing the whole building and having a conforming building with a driveway condition. And we feel that we've met all the requirements, and again, this is a modest addition. C3 zone allows up to 50 feet in height. We're like 24 or 25 feet, which is compatible with the neighborhood. And we do provide additional parking and the current parking standards. And as far as whether the door should be there or not, we're open to that. And we can look at that, however you decide to approach it. And this way minimizes substantial grading to the property without altering the whole site. And I think that's all I have to say, unless if you want me to get into the findings. But I think, again, the findings are essentially what I've written. Part of the application is similar to what Ms. Asp has described. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions at this point.
What is the thinking on the guest parking garage door?
I'm open to that. We can remove it if necessary. But the project sites provide each unit has its own parking, so that parking will basically be used as guest, and we can do it another fashion, which is the tenants will be notified as guests come in and they can park, or we can take the door out if necessary.
Okay.
If that's what's required.
Okay.
And again, one other thing, the deviations that are requested today are really minimal. The administrative exception, although it's part of this hearing, but the administrative exception allows you up to 10% reduction, if I'm not mistaken, without going through a public hearing. But we decided, since we're doing this whole project as a whole, we incorporate everything and be transparent about the whole project. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Next, I have Eric Aguilar. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Eric Aguilar. I live at 1471 East Chevy Chase Drive, Apartment D. I'm also representing the entire building of all the people that wish they could be here, but they have to work. Yolanda Gasman is the owner. Her husband just came out of surgery a week ago, and they're recovering, or they would be here. So I'm speaking on behalf of everybody that lives at 1471. He used the word modest. Interesting enough, what I see is not modest. I see some major construction. Currently the way the driveway is very similar to my driveway, and that driveway is very steep. My unit looks over that property, so anybody that ever goes there, the people that rent those 7 units, they have the hardest time getting in and getting out. And if the way they do use that space, when 2 cars are parked there, it's a nightmare. If the people who rent those units, which they use, they visit the units on a daily basis, that traffic alone is ridiculous. And when they try to get out, it's not easy to back in, navigate. It's really crazy. I watch it, and because I have to hear the beep, 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 beep of the trucks when they're, trying to back up. So the slope of going down, that's the danger part. Chevy Chase is a very busy street. People fly down that street. We've had 3 vehicular manslaughter cases in the last, 30 days within a mile and a half of where we live. I don't see how this is going to work out, especially with the traffic. The parking, I have to park my vehicle about 3 blocks from where I live, either on Canyon or Sinclair. If I get lucky on Chevy Chase, I get lucky, but generally I don't. So that lot, interesting enough, I was thinking about space when I came over here, and that empty lot has really been a blessing. It's a beautiful thing to see. He's landscaped it very nice. The lady who owned it before used to actually have apple trees. Deer would come down the canyon, raccoons, everything. There's birds that eat the avocados. It's a really interesting little spot. And from an environmental perspective, it's very peaceful to look at. So the amount of traffic, the congestion, the dirt is going to absolutely affect me because I live right next door. He says he could have built an 8-unit building. Well, I remember having a conversation with him when he first bought that property that's what he wanted to do, is go 3 stories below parking and build a 24-unit Section 8 housing. That's what he told me about 15 years ago. And I just said, oh, God, no. Anyway, I don't see how this is going to work. It's definitely going to impact us, the amount of construction and what have you. I completely think this is even dangerous because of the amount of traffic and construction and the way people drive down Chevy Chase. I just can't see it. I can see now if you tore the buildings in the back, the 2 units that he does have, if you tore all that down, then maybe you could build, your 8-unit unit that he would want instead of the modest 2 homes he wants, I guess. But I don't see how that's going to work. That driveway and the way it would have to be, I don't see how that's going to work.
A couple of questions.
Certainly. And pardon me, I've never done anything like this before, and I'm
you did a good job.
Wow,
no worries. No worries. You did a good job. The property that you're in, does it have garages?
On Chevy Chase, there's 2 garages for the people who live on, and I have a garage on the very back of 1471.
How many garages are off of Chevy Chase?
There's 2 garages on Chevy Chase, and then my unit actually has a garage in the very back.
Do you use that garage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Second question.
I have 2 cars in my family.
That's fine.
Which most people in this city have at least 4 cars in their family, 4 to 5 per.
But you said that you park on
I park on Chevy Chase.
You don't use your garages.
My girlfriend uses the garage. My garage. The 2 units are the other people that live in those units, C and B.
And your girlfriend has one car or two cars?
Yes, one car.
So there's one space still available in your garage?
No, it's a one car.
Oh, it's
garage.
one car for the unit?
Yes.
Okay. If I'm understanding correctly, you said that 8 units would be better than 4 units?
No, I was under the, when he had spoke, he said that they could have built an 8-unit property, but instead they're going to build a modest 2-unit property.
It'll be 4
That's what they
total.
said. Right.
2 new, 4 total.
Correct. But there, what I heard him say was that if they could, or rather they can go 8 units instead of 2. So I remember having that conversation with him many years ago that he would like to do that. So I guess I should be thankful that you're not going to build an 8-unit building. Instead, you're going to build a modest 2-unit. But either way, that doesn't look modest to me. It's a lot of work right there, a lot of construction. I would assume a lot of noise, dust. I mean, that's not going to be fun for me. I work a graveyard shift, by the way, so I sleep during the day. But that's my problem, I guess.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. All
right. Mr. Mardian, did you want to?
If I may, please. I want to respond to some of these comments, Mr. Collin. As shown on the plans, and of course, Ms. Hasp has stipulated also that traffic has reviewed this. We currently use the driveway, and you can attest to that, and the owners here. The driveway is being used reasonably today. If you could see from the plan, there's substantial setback as far as view of the driveway accessing the adjacent property. It's not to the front of the property line, so as far as getting in and out to the adjacent property driveway, I think is minimized. And answering another question, the adjacent property currently, their garage is back into the street, which is much more hazard than what we are doing. We are going into our driveway, parking into our new parking spaces within our property line. Now, I understand the adjacent building is a non-conforming building, and that's the way it is. But certainly, as far as parking on the street and so forth that he has concern with, we are providing code-required parking. Actually, we have 2 additional parking in excess to what the code allows today. And I disagree that this is not a modest addition. Even if we wanted to go 8 units, we could do a mixed use, even maximize it even more by adding offices and so forth. And of course, that even entails a bigger construction, bigger impact on the neighborhood. Even with an 8 unit will cause a larger impact with grading and so forth. So I don't see the impact is as much as a larger project. I feel, this property has been vacant for a long time. It'll add to the street. The adjacent properties are residential. We're not asking anything out of the ordinary. We're conforming to what the property allows us to do. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, one more question for the applicant. Have you read through the conditions of approval as proposed by staff?
Yes, I have, and we concur with these conditions. We have no issues with it.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to close the public hearing. Based on the findings recommended by staff, the facts and information that have been presented today at this hearing, and all other applicable department input, I'm going to approve the conditional use permit case number 1527164 I'm going to approve variance case 1527167, and I'm going to approve the administrative exception case PAE 1527162, subject to the conditions of approval as listed within the staff report. And quick note to Mr. Aguiar, the project will be going through the design review board process, which would be a great place for your input in terms of the scale and massing of the project, and as well as any buffering or anything maybe that might be useful in providing some sort of privacy or a nice buffer basically between the properties, if you so desire. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing. It will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decisions will be the date appearing on the letter. If anyone is interested in appealing any or all of the three cases, the appeal provisions, Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, those decisions would be appealed to the Planning Commission and must be done so within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section, Permit Service Center, located on the same floor of this building. This concludes the public hearing. It is now closed. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. It is 10:09 on May 4th. Thank you very much.